if I could just speak to my fellow angry white American guys, give it up.
That's right.
My name is Megan. I've had an abortion. My name is Olivia. I've had an abortion.
Out and proud.
Trans members of this family.
Oh, I can't go on with this charade any longer.
Take ownership.
People are going to start thinking I'm a nerd.
It's all on you. Character is you do what's right.
Brandon Edelman, how are you, good sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Jason.
The first little bit of this podcast is going to be me. I'm doing this crazy thing with my hands if you're not watching this on video because my camera doesn't want to focus. This is probably fine. No one really needs to see me. Actually, I look better this way. I really like this look a lot. We'll just keep it out of focus. Maybe the camera will decide to focus later. Maybe it won't. Either way, we're doing a podcast. Number 2 of this Bettermens thing, which is, I think so far gone pretty well, technically anyways, except for this out of focus camera. This kind of stuff drives me crazy because I do video stuff for a living. So I'm trying not to pay attention to it and let it distract me, but it absolutely is. So how are you, good sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Doing well.
Appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, it's no problem. Yeah. Had a day off. Decided.
Oh, nice. Yeah, why not? This is, I think, what I'm going to do for a while is just have guests on who are part of this Bettermens thing we're putting together, which I'm sure we'll talk about if you don't know what that is. But it's been going pretty well. You joined up pretty early on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Were you one of the first?
I was number 21.
21. Oh, wow. Yep. Okay. Very cool. So I kind of changed up. Well, I'll start a little bit about what we're talking about today, because it's actually at least started out as almost a duplicate of last week's episode, because I had you guys were in our Discord, which is how we primarily communicate with this Bettermens group that we're building. And if you've never been on Discord, there's areas of it's basically like a chat app, and there's areas where you can chat live with people. And yourself and Jason, another guy in the group, were just having a conversation, and I joined the chat group just listening in, and you guys were talking about what's good in America, which I thought was pretty unique. You don't hear a lot of that kind of conversation anymore. And so I just asked you guys then if you'd be up for doing a podcast. The original idea was to have both of you on at the same time. I don't even remember why we weren't able to make that happen, but we were. So we split it up. Oh, was that really? Is that what it was?
No,
I don't think so. You're just like, no, I don't even want to talk to you.
I couldn't make it. I couldn't make it that week. So I had to push it to this week.
Side note, you have boxing gloves behind you, it looks like. Old school ones.
I have a snowboard, boxing gloves, and a guitar to give the impression that I'm proficient with these things.
Oh, yeah. Nice. That's what I do. There is a music stand behind me that my boys use. I used it
strategically placed.
Yeah, actually, last week I had it blocking. If you're watching this, there's a stove behind me because I'm in a trailer while we're doing this renovations on this house. So I used it to block that, but I forgot about it today. So.
Yeah, I boxed for quite a while. I did martial arts most of my life, and I found these antique boxing gloves from like the 1920s or something. I thought they were super cool, so I hung them on my wall.
Yeah, no kidding. Those are really cool. I imagine those things, if you put them on right now and just took it out on a guy, they're probably rock solid.
Oh, it's hard. They're hard as a rock. Yeah. All the padding is just
knock
solid.
Your head off. Yeah, I imagine so. Wonder what those things were like in the old days. This isn't what we're talking about today, but I wonder how much padding those things had in comparison to today. I would imagine they didn't do much, just like a thin sheet of leather or something.
Not. Probably about the same as like MMA gloves, maybe. But definitely not like 16-ounce gloves that we use today, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so anyways, back to my story. This is what happens when you watch the live feed. I'll probably won't even edit this out of the main podcast. We'll just leave it in, but I just knocked the cable out of my headphones. So you guys were having this conversation. We were going to do the podcast with all three of us, and didn't. So the goal of this week was just to keep the topic basically the same, because I had already sent you like the questions and things. Yeah. But then about 2 hours ago, I just kind of sprung a new topic on you, slightly different direction. So appreciate you going with the flow here.
Yeah, whatever. Let's chat about whatever. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'm just going to get into. Well, I have to start. So I don't know how long I'll do this for, but as of right now, I think it's just a great idea. I have a standard 2 questions I'm going to ask everybody who comes onto the podcast. I asked Jason last week, so I will ask you those. We'll start there. First question is, how do you personally define a good man?
Me personally, to me, it's not necessarily a set of characteristics that someone has, physical or, discipline or whatever. Those are all, I think, attributes of masculinity and a strong man. But in my personal opinion, it's never stopping trying. What is it? Always keep trying. So I use my dad as an example. When I was young, my dad was a terrible father, 100% a terrible dad, and kind of a terrible guy. He was very selfish. He didn't want kids. He was emotionally and verbally, if not maybe slightly physically abusive. He was, he had a myriad of problems. I remember being a kid and I was really into BMX and I used to do all these tricks and stuff. And I'd run up to him, Dad, check this out. I'm gonna do a 360. This is so cool. And he'd be like, Brandon, you know what? I really don't care about that.
Wow.
And when you're like 12 years old, that does a lot to you. And so,
heck yeah, it does.
But if you met him today, you would not find that man. He is a completely different person. He never stopped improving. He knew he had issues. He knew he had problems. He knew he wasn't a good father. He knew he wasn't a good person. And he never, ever stopped trying. Even to this day, he still tries. And to me, that's what a man is. Someone who never stops trying. No matter what. You fail, you don't do well, you don't, you're an asshole. It's whatever, incremental improvement. And I look to my dad as an example for that, because I think he's living proof that people do change and that, I think that's what masculinity is all about. I mean, obviously none of us have it figured out. That's why we're building this group, to help each other, because none of us even have it remotely figured out, but we're trying.
Well, I love that. There's a lot you could go with there. I speak very, very well.
I also English very well.
Oh, good. We're going to be real great on this podcast. Real quick, I'm going to shut my AC off because I just realized for the intro it was on. I don't know how loud it is, how much it's picking it up, but I'm going to shut it off real quick.
Yeah, right, I turned my fan off too because it was just blaring.
Yeah, exactly. I'll probably edit this out of the main podcast we post.
Yeah.
But if you're watching live, boy, you're in for a real treat. You're going to get up.
This is a Belgian ale. It's about 8%. It's really good, just so you guys that are watching live.
What is that? I missed the beginning. It's a
Belgian ale. It's from a local place in Washington State. I forget the name of it. So sorry, no free advertisement.
Shutting my camera off and trying. I don't know why it's like really bad now. Oh, is it going to do something? Maybe it's thinking about it. This thing gives me trouble once in a while, but oh, look, and then it goes out. Hey, we're
like my dad says, we're here now. Yeah, we're cooking with oil now.
Yeah, we sure are. Okay, so I wanted to go off of that, what you had just said, describing your dad, because I feel like that is a part of something I've noticed in myself lately, as I have gone through this whole process of trying to self-improve, make myself better, a better father, better husband, better just individual in general. I started getting into working out a lot more and doing strength training, with something totally new to me. It's something I've never really done before. And I started watching these videos of guys who are insane about it, over the top, but I was watching this video showing what it means to actually lift a weight or do something to failure. And the guys that go to failure and actually lift to the point where their muscles won't lift anymore is such a far stretch. It's so much further than how far I push myself. And so I started thinking about how I'm doing that in every aspect of my life to a certain degree. I started realizing how much self-limiting I put on myself in a physical way during workouts. I just get to a point where it's uncomfortable. So I stop pretty quick. Because I've gotten to these plateaus in just my workout regimen where I realized like my advancement had kind of stopped. Like I started from this really low level, so I increased pretty quick, but I kind of hit this plateau and realized that that's probably a big part of it. I got to a point to where I just stopped pushing myself. It didn't want to hurt anymore. And I wonder how much that plays a role into what we're seeing with just men in general today. The reason we started this whole Bettermens thing, because we saw just the lack of men willing to stand up, the weakifying of men. And I think in general, that's probably plays a huge role into just the weakness we see, is that we're pretty dang comfortable, and don't want to push ourselves beyond that. So I think your definition of what a man is, continually improving yourself and pushing yourself, really gets at the core of what I think a lot of these issues are.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things are, side effects of continuing to push yourself. A lot of things that people mention as, this is what I think a man is, this is what I think manhood is or masculinity is. They're all side effects of that one root thing, in my personal opinion. So I think if, a lot of videos, they say it, a lot of people say it, it's kind of trite, but I think it's true. You just keep showing up, just keep doing something, always keep moving the dial forward. And I think that you're right about us getting complacent. Life's way too easy. I mean, everyone's always talking about being oppressed or whatever, but I mean, like, let's be real. None of us are really oppressed. I mean, rarely. I mean, really. Even I've done some hard jobs. I used to be a driller's helper on a drilling rig. I've worked, 25 days straight in the winter in the mountains, 14-hour shifts, and I'm not oppressed. Like, that's not oppression. Like, no one made me do that. I went out there and I did it, and it was hard, but it wasn't oppression, for sure. And so we're soft. We've all gotten so mentally weak. I'm the same way. I'm almost the opposite. I like strength stuff. I'm short and squatty, and I'm kind of built for lifting heavy things. I hate cardio. I was in the Army for 8 years, and I hate running so much. I hate it. I'll run like 3 blocks, and I'll get that little blood taste in the back of my throat, and I'm like, no, that sucks. I'm not gonna do that anymore.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I've gained 30 pounds. And so we have it so easy. We have to manufacture tribulation and trials. We have to either go to the gym and manufacture.
You're totally right. Yeah.
Or we have to pretend like we have something, oh, I'm so oppressed. I'm this, I'm that. You guys need to give me stuff. I mean, we don't have any real hardships we have to do. I mean, it's like, oh, I'm going to push myself, so I'm going to go to the CrossFit box or whatever.
Totally.
And, yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. I feel like that's a big reason this whole the woke community grew out of a place of that, where it's almost like you have to invent issues. I'm not saying there's not issues. There's real issues in our world. There always will be. But we're definitely at a time and a place in our culture, certainly in the US, where things are real good and have been really good for a long time. And you have to, you have to look for other issues that are, like I said, they are present, they are there, but I think they get elevated to this place of just like, this becomes your whole world, to where that mindset becomes a religion in itself. It becomes everything. It becomes attached to who you are at your core. And when you step back a little bit and look at it from a different perspective, look at it from a different time frame, different time in the US, even in its short history, you realize how insignificant so many of the issues that we're fighting against, that we wrestle with, really are. They really don't matter. They matter because we've elevated it to this place where it's just tearing people apart, and it's reinventing what truth is. And I think that gets to the core of where you see the weakness of men and where men need to stand up and all of that. But that's kind of the point of the show. Like, that's this particular episode anyways. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because we're kind of going there anyways, is men used to be seen as heroes, and it wasn't a bad thing. If you like, from literally like Superman kind of thing to like, you'd celebrate what men did. And I'm not saying was good or bad, but it was just not a thing. You didn't think of it as an issue. And it's become a real issue in our culture today. I guess one of the things I was wondering from your perspective, where do you think that began? Where did you see that? Maybe not in your lifetime, but looking back into the past, like when was the last time you look back and think that was a time in our culture when you could say men were men, whatever that means to you?
You know, I've always grown up in like small, somewhat rural communities. I was born in 82. I think we talked earlier, and I think you and I are.
You were 82 also. Same.
I think we're about 5 days apart. Isn't your birthday October 5th?
Yeah.
Mine's September 29th.
6.
Oh, 6. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
so
we're real close.
So we're about 7-8 days apart from turning 40, I guess. And
isn't it fun?
Isn't it?
Dang, look at your hair compared to mine. Hair. Well,
it's
yeah, I was going to say, you're looking pretty dark.
It's mostly the gray chin hair. And by the way, this is about 2 weeks of growth. So what are you going to do?
Nice.
But I think, you know, I grew up with ranchers and farmers, and all of these things were non-issues. It wasn't even a thing that people thought to think of. It wasn't a thing that anyone, even I don't ever remember hearing any of this stuff until I was in like my late 20s. Like, it's just,
same with me.
Who cares? People have more important things to do. They have to take care of their families. They have to go to a picnic. They got to go to church. They got to be with their friends. It's all, there's so many more things that are so much more important to talk about than this nonsense. And in my life, you know, growing up in southeastern Colorado, near Kansas, Oklahoma, everyone was ranchers, farmers, tiny little town called Lamar, Colorado. I think there's maybe like 10,000 people in it. And never did I ever hear anything even remotely close to this. It was, you know, just like, you know, grew up with the 80s action heroes, and I thought that was cool. And, you know, you got your tough guys, and you got the guys who aren't so tough, and you got the bad guys, and you got the good guys. It was simple. I know life's not that simple, but I think, you know, you're talking about how they became kind of not the heroes anymore. I think it's a few
men,
things.
not the heroes.
Yes, you say in other people's eyes. In other people's eyes.
No, I agree. I would say they're the villains in a lot of ways.
Right, and and if not a villain, at least a bumbling idiot. You got your Peter Griffins, you got your Homer Simpsons,
exactly.
You know, King of Queens. You got this, you know, fat, dumb, kind of slow guy with like a whip smart, you know, hot middle-aged wife. You know, it's this whole thing. I think it's a few things. I'm just a guy. I don't know, you know, a lot of things. I'm not an overly political guy. But from my perspective, I think it's a few things. One, I think it's easy to vilify the, like, what's in people's mind as the Goliath. It's easy to like make fun of that person. Like, you know, if you're the you know, the goth kid that smokes behind the bicycle racks in high school, it's cool to make fun of the jock who's got all his stuff together, you know, and it's fine. Everyone's like, oh, you expect the goths and, you know, the nerds and the whoever, you know, just to use like this high school archetype, to make fun of the guy who's got it all together. He's with the most beautiful cheerleader. He's fit. He's got good grades. He's going to go to a great college. It's perfectly fine to vilify him, make him the bad guy in every high school movie. It's cool to make him the brunt of every joke, and the jocks are dumb and all that other stuff, because he seems to be the one that has all of it. You know, he's got the rich parents and everything, you know, and in real life, we were like, yeah, I knew that kid in high school, and he was like the nicest guy in the world. Like, rarely is it like a high school movie, but I think in our minds, well, people's minds, you see these people that are like up here, and it's always okay to to attack up, but it's never good to, you know, you can always always strike up, but you can't strike down. If you're up here, I'm not saying that like men are up here, but what I'm saying is in these people's minds, men are up here, and it's okay to attack up, but it's not okay for them to attack down.
Right.
And a lot of times as men, I think we're just kind of silent about things. We just don't for me, I kind of try to take like a stoic approach to things. I don't really complain about a lot of things. I just kind of, just live my life. And a lot of men just kind of do that. And so we just kind of take it. And it's just like, yeah, okay, so whatever. I don't really care. And I think it's a melding of that kind of attitude in men, one, and the attitude that it's okay to pick on like the one we view as the most powerful. I don't know if I bumbled around that, but that's kind of my view on it.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I do think that's probably where it started, because I know in the 90s probably is when I started to become aware of how dads especially were just treated like morons on TV, like the Homer Simpsons, like you said. And then it's gotten to this level to where now they're not even made fun of. It's like you can't even have like a guy in a role of really leadership in a movie or anything. It feels that way. It feels like you have to offset it, or you have to justify it or something, because it seemed as wrong. And it drives me crazy. But I think you're right that partially maybe because we grew up with that, you do see it as you just become passive to it. And you feel like, oh, I shouldn't stand up. It's the wrong thing. There's this pressure pushed back on you if you do stand up. But to me, when you look at where our culture's gone, where our society has gone so quickly, especially as internet has gained in popularity. I hear it's a pretty popular thing nowadays with the young kids.
Interwebs.
And so, yeah, it's like a thing now. And I just look at how influential it's made, how impressionable kids. What am I saying? I don't even know what I'm saying. I went to the dentist today, so that's my excuse. I have drugs in my system. Has nothing to do with it. But
I have this in my
culture
system,
can
so
influence. Get it down so that you're closer to my level, and then start another one. Yeah, but you look at that cultural imprint that was on me as a kid. I grew up in a very rural area. We didn't have cable. We didn't have anything like that. We had 3 channels we could reach in our rural area with a big rabbit like antenna. It wasn't even a rabbit antenna. I don't know what they called those massive things on your roof when you
and you just be like, you like holding them.
It's the size of your. Mm-hmm. We had one of those, and we could pick up a few stations. But even with that, like limited access I had to outside culture, it was still so influential. So I just look at kids today who grew up with everything in their face, attempting to try to change their mind on the popularity or whatever's commonplace and popular in pop culture is extremely difficult. And I think just going to be more difficult for boys being raised in that culture to take a stand. Anyways, I guess my point to this is that with this mindset that we have that you were talking about, just how we just sort of let it happen. We see this happen and we just kind of are passive about it. Yeah. I feel like you can see the cultural impact in such a blatant way, where as men have weakened their stance on everything, on their personal belief, their core convictions, have they just let others kind of rule and push them down into a place that isn't natural for a guy. It's just impacted the culture. Anyways, I'm rambling. I apologize, but
no, I completely understand what you're trying to say. And, it's easy.
Trying is the right word. I'm trying to say something.
Hey, as long as we're putting one foot in front of the other. I think you're right.
Keep trying. Yeah.
I keep trying. I think that, and it's funny because like you see all these things in commercials, media, news, shows, on the internet, YouTube videos and stuff. And everyone's just like, well, yeah, of course it's straight white men or men in general, even not even bringing color into it. But it's just men in general. They're dumb. They're bumbling. You can't send a man to go get something from the store because he'll come back with the wrong thing. Derp, 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 derp. And it's funny because like you see this and everyone's just like, yeah, okay, it's just like kind of this widely accepted thing that everyone's just kind of like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then you walk around in real life and like none of that even matches. You don't even think about that stuff in real life. You have men all over being competent, keeping our world together.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote down some statistics here just in case, because one of your questions was what do I view man's role in our society? I mean, we hold it. We hold together the infrastructure. Like we hold it together. Like whether it's behind the scenes or up front, we hold it together. I mean, like water treatment plant. This is male-dominated jobs. Water treatment plant workers, 91% male. Bricklayers, 97% male. Garbage collectors, 95% male. Ranchers, 75% male. Industrial fishermen, 91%. Power plant operators, 95%. Construction workers, 93%. Miners, like, gold miners, whatever, coal miners, 91%. Rail workers, 93%. Trucking, 90%. That's our infrastructure. That's everything that keeps America running. We keep and not just America, we keep modern society running. And that's
very true.
Oh, are all men perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, there's a lot of things. I have a really self-deprecating sense of humor. I like to poke fun at myself. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Like you said in the website, take yourselves too seriously. But I don't feel like in society, men in general, not necessarily me, but men in general, don't get the credit they deserve. There's guys out there in the dark, in the rain, in the mud, in the snow, holding things together so that people can sit in their nice air-conditioned apartment and bitch on Twitter about what they don't do. And,
it's absolutely true. And the thing is, like, men are built for that is the thing. Like, you have statistics like that. And I imagine there could be some groups who would push back and be like, that's part of the problem. We need women in these roles, but it's not true. Women don't want those roles because they're not built for it. No, they're not. Men have there's a natural tendency in most men to provide for one thing. And also to, there's like a call to duty with men. There's something that draws men into, I think, those types of jobs because there's not a care aspect to that. Most women tend to go into jobs that care for others. That's why there's a lot more nurses in general. There's women that go into those sort of service roles because they're naturally more empathetic to other people. So they fill those roles. It's a natural thing where men, there's like a disconnect for that. There is this kind of sense of duty, of work, of accomplishing tasks that is just ingrained in men. And I think that, to me, it's not so much about, I mean, there is we're at a time where men have been pushed down so far from a very early age into compartmentalized boxes of, don't do this, don't run, don't stand, don't speak right now, don't do this, don't do that. And there's a natural tendency in men to just go like hunt and kill, like, you know what I mean? Like it's in anyways. That part's been attempted to be pulled out of men, and the roles completely switched. And I think that leads to so many problems when you try to put men into roles that women have typically gone after because they're naturally more affluent in it. It's probably not the right word, but the other side's been true also, where you try to put men into, or try to bring women into positions that men have naturally thrived in because it's natural in them. Right. And you just see how it throws everything into this wacky spin to where you have boys who grow up with natural tendencies to where they're put into check. They're questioned from a very early age. It's amazing to me how much, I think the more I think about it, how much it screws with our whole fabric of society. Like a lot. It's really nutty to me. I think you can, if you follow a lot of the issues that we see in our culture today, a whole heck of a lot of them can be traced back to men not being men naturally, traditionally. Yeah. It's very interesting.
And the fault, I don't really think necessarily falls too much on women trying to, I mean, yes, some trying to be like, oh, you were just like you. We can do all the same things you can. And you know what? I have worked in gold mining. I've worked in drilling. I've worked in construction. I was in the military, and I have seen some outliers. I have seen some women that could just get in there and
100%. Oh, absolutely. And it works both ways for sure.
Right. And
it's not a rule.
I think that a lot of men have just gotten so lazy that they're just like, I want that soft, easy life. I don't want to have to go out and do those things. And you know, I mean, why would they when you know, you're told your whole life that, you know, you can, you don't have to do these, you know. It's kind of like, I don't know if you follow Mike Rowe too much.
Oh yeah.
The Dirty Jobs guy.
Big fan. Yep.
He's a huge advocate for trade schools and the trades and things. But I think part of like our culture in the past, you know, several decades, it has been pounded into your brain. You got to go to college and you got to get a degree and you got to be an executive or else you're not shit. And I even bought into it. I bought into it. Like, dude, I have a master's degree and I paid for all of that stuff because I thought I had to have it so that I could be successful. Because it was, and I grew up blue collar. And I always thought, you know, you'd see these things on TV and you see these guys and they're, you know, the Wolf of Wall Street kind of stuff. And you'd look at it and you'd be like, man, that looks so cool. And to do that, I haven't seen any of the gold miners around here driving a Jaguar with any women that look like that. And I want that. So I got to go get this to get that. And I have an MBA and I still don't have that. So I think that we've been fed this lie that you have to be this C-suite executive. You have to have this cush office job, this high level of education. There are linemen and welders and underwater welders out there that make $500,000 a year, and they went to a trade school. And I think that has also played a big part of it in changing men's minds as to what is important, what, you know, infrastructure, keeping our world together, these jobs that make the world run, they're important. And they've been looked down on like they're these low pay kind of jobs where, you know, you do that if you can't get into college or the army rejects you sort of deal. Yep. I think that is also a huge contributor in the minds of men too, just this whole idea that these things are less than in some way. When in reality, they're
for sure.
They're the most important jobs that are out there.
And there's a huge opportunity for it. I think, especially in our world today, there are so many. I work with a company that works in the dirt world, civil engineering. They do a lot of you know, earth moving projects and stuff. Work with companies that do it. Anyways, there's such a need in that world. And it's there, like you said, there's huge jobs in there. You can do really well, but it is just a mindset shift from the time you're in high school. The common idea is that, the only way you're going to get ahead, the only way you're quote successful is if you go after some kind of white collar job, go to college. There's a set path. And man, there's so many different ways of making your way through life that I think aren't exposed to kids at a young age. Because there is just, and it traces back to, I guess, it doesn't matter where it traces back to. It's here. I think it's changing for sure. The world's changing and people are seeing that there's a lot of different opportunities. So hopefully that moves it into, you know, a cultural shift in general, away from just what's been told to you. But I don't know. It's just, it's going to be interesting
to take us off topic there either. So I was just kind of
it can go wherever we want to go.
Well, I was trying to tie it back in.
Well, because you're probably a better podcaster than me.
No, this is
having never done it before. I know, but you're actually keeping it on topic. Well, I was going to say this morning in our Discord group, I don't know if you saw the chat that was going on this morning, but man, there was some good stuff that were kind of along the same lines. I was looking for one comment in particular that kind of hit on that idea that you were just talking about. I think maybe it was this one. I'm reading through. I'll just read it right now. This is the funkiest. This is just the digits is his name. Daddy 09714_3540. It's a great name. It sounds like one of Elon Musk's kids. He said, I think a lot comes down. Yeah, exactly. He said, I don't know if this is the one, but there's a ton of great chat in there. But this one guy said, I think that a lot of it comes down to complacency due to comfort. Aside from recessions, most living generations in America, at least, haven't experienced great adversity. Some adversity, but not like, say, a family trying to escape a war zone. That safety and comfort strips away the fight reaction. We can run from most things and avoid the rest. So fight or flight turns into consistent flight. In addition to that, the aspirations of wealth are always prevalent. And that means to pursue it are always I think I read that wrong. And the means to pursue it are always there. When men can find ways to achieve and keep wealth or status, why can't I read this right? Let me try that again. When men can find ways to achieve and keep wealth or status, seldom to the also retain. I blame him for writing that wrong. It's not the way I read. Yeah, it's totally his fault. That's what it means to be a real man, is blame other people for your
right. Elon Musk should have been able to send him to a better school than that.
So. Dang, come on. Exactly. He said, when people are always trying to prove their worth through what they have, they'll keep trying to get more to show, so as to show more, so they are perceived as being worth more. Okay. I really like this. I think it's very true. I'm our society. Sorry.
In our society,
I think he wrote quick. Maybe in our society, probably.
A lot of times,
in our society,
I'm typing my stuff on my phone in the Discord, and I mess up a ton of stuff on the phone. So it's probably
sometimes I'm just having like Siri dictate it, and it turns out screwy like this too. He's probably watching right now, and he's like, "Hey." In our society, we're taught to challenge
the way I had it.
It's perfect. Read it the way it is. In our society, we're taught to challenge a person's status rather than challenge a person's mind and heart. I think that's really true. It used to be a man was judged and valued on his deeds and his character, which made him build and hone those characteristics. Now men are judged on their material gain and ability to obtain, so many focus purely on the ability to increase that potential. Really like that. It totally goes along with what you're saying too, as far as just going into going into college and having these kind of preconceived ideas. But I just think now because that used to be a thing when I was a kid, for sure, growing up. It's just this idea that other kids who were like going to college, which I didn't do, made me feel inferior, like they were upperclassmen or they were doing something better than I was. Yeah, but that was kind of it. But now I feel like kids they have so many influences coming at them because of the internet and social media. I was listening to this thing the other day, and they were talking about how many different ideas can come into your mind just from spending like an hour on social media. For me, I mean, I'm always trying to better myself and learn different things. So I'll listen, like today, I listened to Joe Rogan. I'll listen to Jordan Peterson, just these little clips. And they bring these ideas that are like revolutionary to me. They're eye-opening. And I'll think, well, I need to change my life and go after that road. And so I'll try to build that into my life. But then the next day I'll hear another idea where I'm like, dang, I need to bring that into my life also. And they were comparing that to somebody who lived, say, 100 years ago, even just 100 years ago, and how limited the influence was on you. You lived in a time where if you wanted to study a different idea, you would read a book. You would actually study it. It was slow. It happened over time. And so you look at kids today who are influenced by everything. They don't know what they want. They don't know what's right, what's wrong, really, especially if you have parents that aren't super involved in their life and don't have a lot of barriers. The influence is just insane. And so I think, the influence that we had to like go to college, that's how you make a good life for yourself. Kids today, there's just a million different ideas being brought on them. And most of them, if you're following culture, most of them are building are taking them into this one idea that to me is just really destructive. It can be. In some ways, it's whatever. To me, it can get to this place where it's just plain evil. Where, I mean, regardless of what your spiritual background is, I think you can see that there's true evil in the world. And there are parts of our culture that are going after our kids in a very purposeful way. And I think that as men, like you said, it's easier for us to just be passive about it because we don't even know. We're not really involved in, sorry, I'm going on this kid thing. I have kids. I'm at a place where I'm almost going to have grandkids one day. I'm not too far from that being a potential. It's just on my mind so much how out of the loop so many of us are. Even guys like me who are aware of this, like you said, it's so much easier just to look the other way or just to get distracted by things like this. We're building this Bettermen group. I've been putting so much time into this. I've noticed in my own life that I haven't been focusing on my family, which is the whole point of this, to make yourself a better man for the people you care about the most. It just happens even if you have good intentions. And meanwhile, our kids are just being influenced every single day more and more. And it's just going to get worse. The next generation who's being raised with a phone in their hand from the time they're can move their hands. Yeah. I just feel like, what shot do we have? It's now or never. Men have to stand up and go. We're so far behind the bar. You know, that's the thing too. It's hard for me to not take this thing slow and to not just go out and try to blow it up and build it out. Like, it's hard for me to, I know we need the structure and we got to build this the right way, but it's just like, we're so far behind. It's such an uphill battle. You know, in the group, we talk about climbing a mountain. It's an extremely steep mountain, and we have people on top of the mountain, like, if you will, like the enemy, just whoever the enemy is.
Rocks at you, yeah.
Yes, it's just crazy. Sorry, that was just a total side tangent, but dang, I
mean, I think it ties in. Everyone is inundated with so many ideas. You and I, we're 40 years old, and we still think. You watch a bunch of YouTube shorts, you go down the rabbit hole of YouTube shorts, and it's like, oh, I got to do keto, or, oh, I got to do CrossFit, or, oh, I got to do this, or, oh, I got to do this, or, oh, I got to clean my room every day. Like Jordan Peterson says.
That was Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
That is, that's well done.
Thank you. And you got to do all these things to have a successful life. This is this, and this. And if you don't follow this, and this, then we put all this artificial pressure on ourselves. And then, I'm not moving fast enough, or I messed up, or, I made myself a list that was 10 miles long because I got to be like David Goggins and stay hard. And
yeah, absolutely.
And then you fail because these guys are way up here and we're way down here.
Yeah, they're not.
We haven't taken the baby steps to reach that level, and we're trying to do stuff way up here, and then we get discouraged.
Yeah, you're right. That's
because
very true. I hadn't thought about that.
Because we can't keep up. So what we're trying to do is become the men who can do the things we want to do in life. We're not those men yet, or else we wouldn't be here. Like, we're not the.
You're man absolutely right.
Who can? We're not that guy.
We never will be, because that guy has issues you don't know about, personal issues. Even David Goggins, those guys deal with stuff that maybe you don't deal with, that there's always another level to work towards. And I think you're right. You look at guys that are at a certain place in life and you just beat up on yourself. But the process of attempting to make yourself better every day, like we started with this conversation, a man, from your definition, is somebody who continues to strive for better. The name of our group. I mean, that is the goal. And that takes a ton of work, because I mean, I know for myself, it's so much easier, especially if you've lived a big portion of your life like I have, going the other way. Like, lazy is fine. I used to run away from discipline. I thought discipline was the opposite of freedom, and I wanted freedom.
I've been there.
Yeah, this is all new to me. This approach to disciplining myself to become better, to every day trying to improve in some way. It's a very difficult way to live. And I think that gets back again to one of the core problems, where life is too easy. We don't have to do this. I don't have to wake up and make myself better every day. Things are fine. You know what I mean? Like, so to actually, what's the word? To intentionally bring hardship into your life is so counterintuitive to somebody like me, who's been born and raised into this world where luxury is the norm. And even if you were poor, I didn't grow up with money, but we lived in luxury compared to somebody even from the 1950s.
Oh yeah.
But we don't realize it.
We live better than kings did 1,000 years ago. The poorest person in
100 years ago
apartment. Yeah,
absolutely. The luxuries we have today are just, we completely take them for granted. And so when we have to actually add difficulty into our life, it doesn't make sense to my mind at first. But it's absolutely what is needed to make yourself better, to grow grit.
I have
I don't know where we're going. Oh, keep going. Yeah.
A different perspective, coming from, so I grew up very disciplined. I was always very fit. I did martial arts my whole life. I had a six pack from, I want to say like birth to, I don't know, 30 years old.
Where did that come from? Was that from your dad, or is that just in you? Was that more of a natural thing?
It was, my dad was a pretty active guy. I mean, he's got like an old man pot belly, but he was always out there doing stuff. We're always helping him lay concrete, all kinds of stuff, do whatever. And, we grew up pretty rough and tumble out in the desert, dirt bikes. All my friends were really active. We rode bikes. We fought, we did martial arts. We all did that kind of stuff. And so I was always very, I competed in karate and in kickboxing, and then I joined the military, and I had this whole, it was nothing to me. That was like how life was. You're just busy all the time. You just did, you lived life to the fullest and you did stuff. And then I got out of the military. Well, it was actually probably just a little before I got out of the military. I knew I was going to get out, and I started like pulling back, and I was like, I kind of got this mentality because I know that, a lot of guys that might be listening, they might, this might be a perspective that they connect with. You kind of get to this level where you're like, man, I've done enough. I've done really well. I'm pretty awesome. I'm pretty good. I can tone it back a bit. I can lay off. I can not do this for a while. And that it kind of took over, and I gained like 60 pounds, and like I got fat, and I'm still overweight. And I have this now. I have this thing in my head where it's like, oh, well, I used to be this way. I'm kind of that has-been guy that you always make fun of, Oh, I used to be able to do it. I could stand right there on the ground and do a backflip and land flat on my feet. Yeah. And yes. I used to be able to run 15 miles. I could do 32 pull-ups. I could bench 315. And you have this thing in your head where you're like, yeah, I can still do that, but you can't, and because you're not that guy anymore. And maybe that guy was more disciplined, but this guy isn't. And I got to retrain those muscles, I have to, cause I've let myself go so much that like I've kind of become accustomed to being soft, and it's way easier to get a pint of Ben and Jerry's and binge watch something on Netflix than it is to go train, to go get kicked in the face, to go run. I mean, so.
Well, you look at even. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was done.
I hope you're done, because I got some good stuff to say.
Okay, say I'm done. I'm done rambling.
I've got nothing. I have nothing. I'm just knocking my mic over. I didn't have anything good to say. I just thought I'd interrupt you like a jerk. No, I was going to say, the level of lax that I had in my own life, like when I really started to get convicted. It's interesting that you said that, because there was a time when I was a kid, I guess, I never thought of myself as disciplined as a kid, but I totally was. I raced mountain bikes, cross-country mountain biking, very
that's cool.
competitively for years and years, which did take a lot of discipline, something I never really thought about. But when you said that you kind of look at yourself as, I used to do those things, I totally did that. Because I used to be really thin. I used to be really fit. And I became fat and out of shape and lazy. But anyways, I was thinking, I got to the point where I noticed that even in, like, for sure, sit on the couch, get some ice cream, watch a show, watch a movie. I got so lazy that I didn't even want to watch shows that would challenge my brain. I'd want to watch just stupid, pointless shows that wouldn't make me think, because that was too tiring. And I think it is. I think I said this last week, but I always wonder what somebody from like 1863 brought into the world today. Aside from all of the craziness, with just technology, but just to look at our culture and where guys are at, where just people are at in general. I wonder what they would think, because the life that they lived, like we're restoring this old house from the early 1800s, and you just look at the basic living conditions these people had. I mean, they didn't live in their houses. They worked all day and would just sleep in them, because they were basically shacks. That was it. That was your whole life. And I think about those people back then, that was normal. That wasn't a weird thing. That was just how people lived back then. That was the standard. I mean, the standard for like luxuries back then was like, maybe you had a blanket, maybe you had a new pair of shoes once every 6 years. I mean, I don't know. It's just amazing how far we've come, and we just don't realize it because we're born in it. I feel like I'm repeating myself now, but it's really interesting to me.
Yep. Oh, I was going to ask. You said you ask 2 questions for everybody on the podcast. I think we.
I totally missed those. We did.
We got question 1 down, but I was just trying to.
Dang, we're all over the place. Okay, let me bring it back. I do want to know this. What are we like? Almost to the end of the show, and I'm getting to my second question. This has been a good conversation, though. I've enjoyed this. Second question that I want to ask everybody is, why did you join Bettermens?
Yes. I'm going to be pretty transparent here. I'm so tired of not being and having what I want out of life. I'm so tired of letting my family down, my partner down, myself down. I have missed so many opportunities in life because I wasn't prepared because of laziness. When I was in the Army, what I wanted to be more than anything else was a Green Beret. I wanted to be in Special Forces. I want to be a Green Beret. And I would say it, and I'd say it, and I'd talk about it, and I'd research it, and I'd watch videos, and I'd read books. You ask me anything about U.S. Army Special Forces, I can answer any question you ever wanted to know. But it was all just analysis and reading and things like that. And then when I had the opportunity to go to a selection, I wasn't physically prepared because of laziness. There have been job opportunities, opportunities to advance myself that I've missed because I was not prepared, because I did not put in any effort, because I could not be bothered. I was just lazy, and it's all in here. I have a really active imagination. And in my head, I'm building all this stuff and I'm doing all these things, but in reality, I'm fooling myself. I don't do them. I just think about them and I talk about them, and I get a little bit of a contact high from telling other people, and then they give me affirmation. Oh, wow, man, that's so cool. You're going to be in Special Forces. That's going to be so badass. And then you get that elevated, boost in your brain. Like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I never did it. And that's one of my greatest regrets. And there's a lot of things, someone asked you to do something, your wife, your partner. Hey, can you do this? Can you get this done for me? Can you get, yeah. And then you never do it. And then they're just, I thought you said you're going to do this. And I'm just tired of being that guy. I'm tired of seeing, and like you said, we compare ourselves a lot to people on social media, but I think I'm at the age now where I pretty much know what I want out of life. I know the things that I want to have. I know, and I'm not in a place where I can have them. And a lot of times I don't even know how I could get them. I live in Portland, Oregon, and everything's so expensive here. I make pretty good money from what I do, and I don't know how I'm ever going to own a house. I live in an apartment. Like, I see, these people with these cool old farmhouses that they've restored themselves on 10 acres. And I'm like, man, that looks so cool. And I see how these people live, and all of that is a byproduct of their discipline and who they've become and who they've been able to turn themselves into through hard work. And I wish and I hope and I dream, but I never do. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of never being there. I'm never being present, never being ready, always living vicariously, or at least living through my imagination. Mental masturbation, you know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of guys feel that way. Jordan Peterson said that most men live lives of quiet desperation, and I know I do. And I want to be a part of something that is bigger than myself, and 2, I want to improve myself. And I think that the first step here in Bettermens is vigorous self-improvement. I mean, it's kind of that stoic mentality where it's like, control what you can control and don't worry about what you can't control. I don't even control myself. So I have to get that under control before I have to I feel like change myself before I can change anything else. I'm not the kind of person that could exact any kind of change right now. And I don't want that. I don't want to be a nothing, a nobody that never did anything and never accomplished anything. And so that's why I'm here. I'm almost 40 years old and I have nothing to show for it. Not one thing. And so that's why I joined.
Dang. I think I can definitely relate to that. And I would imagine the more, since we started this Bettermens thing, that's what surprised me is how many other guys have joined this already. And we haven't really even pushed it. You know, I think there's so many guys in the same place that are just so ready for the same kind of thing. Because I thought you and I are very similar in everything you just said. I thought the same things of myself not long ago at all, and just got tired of it and thought that I was like the only one. I thought I was sort of an outlier.
Like I'm a loser and everyone else has their stuff together.
Everybody else has it together. Everybody has things figured out, and I've just not done anything. Same thing. And since we started this thing, I'm like, dang, everyone's stories may be a little bit different, but I think in general, that's what we're seeing a lot of guys feeling about themselves. And I think we'll find as this thing grows and as we bring this out to more people, that is very common. And I think part of it just brings us back to where we started, where you have sort of this warped view of what a man is, because men are seen as idiots, like you said. And also just being a man, especially being like a white man in America, is just, it's just seen as like you almost have to take, you almost have to feel bad about it. It's just kind of this weird cultural pressure that, you know, you've done so much wrong to our world because you're a man. You need to take a back seat and let somebody else drive now. Right. And
you've had your turn.
You've had your turn. The world. Exactly.
Let us fix it.
Yeah. And you and I have heard that from a later age. My sons and my grandkids, one day, they're going to grow up in this world hearing that from such a young age. And I think that they're going to see the same thing. If we don't have men now decide to lead and show our future men what that means, you're going to have boys growing up, I think, hating themselves to a certain point, because they're putting you into a box that's not natural. I think that's part of what you and I have felt in ourselves also, is just, it's okay to take a back seat. It's okay. Like, that's where you should be. And we haven't ever gone after the things that we should have, because I'm not blaming culture. Like, it's on us. It's our fault. Right. But there is a cultural push to just take it down a notch. And
it's true. I mean, like I said, I live in Portland. I live in like the woke capital of the world. And, you know, I've gone out with friends before, and, you know, they start talking about, you know, straight white man, cis, this, whatever. And there's all this pressure because they all just kind of agree with each other, and they all just kind of, you know, circle jerk each other, like, you know, like, oh yeah, this is how the world is. And you're almost obligated to, you know, I've, you know, taken the coward's way and like, oh yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
You know, us straight away. And
yeah,
like I said before, when we were talking earlier, when we were chatting over Discord, I'm only half white. I know you can't tell by this whitewash. I'm half white. I'm only half, and I'm nearly 100% certain my Mexican ancestors never really enslaved anybody, and I'm pretty sure the white half was all serfs anyway, and we're all poors. But, you know, oh, nope, because I present as white, because, you know, my white half is what shows. You know, I don't tan very well, even though I'm half Mexican. No one can tell. I look white. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that I grew up super poor. I remember standing in line for government cheese and government peanut butter in those big gray tubs. They're, you know, people of color, whatever you want to call them, that have grown up far more affluent than I ever did. Yep. My dad made $5 an hour and had 4 kids. And, we were and you know, half Mexican, and nope, but I look white. So, and, you know, I've attained a high level of education. I had to join the military to do it. No one ever saw that. No one ever saw that I had to work 12-hour shifts to save money to pay for school. No one ever saw that. You're a highly educated white man. You are garbage, and you are what's wrong with the world. And you sit there and you think, I'm just a regular guy that's trying to make my way through life. And I feel like 99% of men are that guy.
Did something break?
You are frozen.
Oh, so were you. We're back. You know what I think happened is we hit the 1 hour mark.
Oh, and it kind of was like,
yeah, for some reason it like killed YouTube. It did that last week, and I set it for a longer time, but it killed it. We're off. We're not live now. It's just you and I.
Oh, well, we can post the rest of it.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. We can still use the rest of it for the podcast. For like the actual podcast on iTunes, because you were saying some good stuff there.
Yeah. And I just kind of feel like it's obviously everyone's different. Everyone comes from a different background. It's not okay to stereotype everybody based off of the actions of certain people, except if you're white, if you're straight, if you're a man. You can go ahead and lump us all into the same category. It doesn't matter that, you could be French, German, Lithuanian, Canadian, and, Russian, American, and have vastly, vastly, vastly different cultures and experiences. You're all white. You're all the same.
And backgrounds, like you said. Just because you're white, you didn't have it easy. But if you say that, just saying that's like, no, you don't know how easy you had it. You don't understand what oppression is. You don't understand anything because you're white. And it's very true.
It's weird. I mean, I'm half Mexican. My partner, my girlfriend that I live with, she's Asian. She's half Asian and half white. I'm half Mexican and half white. In our household, there's a combined total of one white person. So I guess we have that much privilege. I don't know how that all works.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have had a difficult time with everything I have ever done. Nothing has ever been handed to me. And ever. I've never had a job because of nepotism. I have never gotten preferential treatment in college. I didn't qualify for anything to help me out. The military paid for it. And if anyone thinks that school is free when you go to the military, I highly beg to differ. It is anything but free. You pay for it for sure. But yeah, nothing was ever given to me. Everything I've ever attained has been very difficult. And I know I could have attained more if I wasn't so lazy, but the things that I do have, it isn't because I look white. I mean, say my melanin was slightly different. I'm the same exact person, but let's just say my biological father's Mexican half showed more. Would I then have privilege, or would I then have less privilege? Would I then have been trodden upon because of a little bit of melanin change? The whole idea is absolutely insane to me. That had I been born slightly more tan, if my mom's Scottish roots haven't popped through so much, and the more Mexican would have stood out more, would I have been more oppressed? It's weird. It blows my mind. The things that we think about and manufacture, like you're talking about someone from like the 1860s, they would have been like, what? Or like, the 1820s or something like that. They'd have been like, wait, this is the stuff you worry about? I'm worrying about trying to shoot a deer from 30 feet with a smoothbore musket.
Yes. Literally to survive.
So that I don't die.
I have to feed my kids tonight. And if I don't do this, exactly. Yeah. Dang, that was a good chat. I mean, there's no time limit on this, but now I figure there's guys. I told them it's shut off, so now we have to do the live. You don't have to. No obligation at all. But
I'll hop in there for a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can go ahead and stop it now.
Well, thanks for doing this. This was a good chat. I felt like an idiot today. My brain shut off quite a few times, but overall,
right. You went to the dentist. That's completely understandable.
Listen, it's hard. It's so hard, guys, going to the dentist.
It's hard.
So hard.
Jobs are hard. Everything's hard.
Thanks for doing this. This was great. We'll have to do it again. I think we could do a lot of cool conversations.
I think so too. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Hey, what did you? Just a quick question. You can cut this out or whatever, but
Sure.
just that I have you here. What did you think of the rest of the copy that I did? I wasn't sure how you felt about it.
What, like the part about the
website writing that I did.
Yeah, no. I mean, what part do you mean? What part?
Well, you said you read the mountain part, and
I never got back
quite a bit.
Gosh,
but
no.
like the rest, I didn't know if the rest was like on target or like if you needed me to.
I literally, I mean, no exaggeration. I was going through today. It's all on the website now. I added, I think, pretty much all of it. I was getting goosebumps throughout it. Like I was like, no, I'm not saying that just to flatter you or anything. Like it was real. I was just, you are extremely talented with that. I was blown away. And I feel like I have some understanding of that. Like I work in the marketing world. I do, video marketing. I work with a lot of copywriters and a lot of different writers. It is rare. I found that you either find writers who they sound like they're selling. It clearly sounds like an ad. It's very corporate, or they just suck. They're just bad. They're just not great writers. It doesn't really communicate clearly. It doesn't sound authentic. And the way that you wrote that found this way of like, it's almost like, I was going to say, it's almost like art in words. It's almost like this poetry, but it also, because I've seen guys, you see people that can write in this kind of fluttery way, and but then it doesn't really communicate clearly. It doesn't sound real. And you found this way of like, it sounds so poetic, but it also sounds very clear in its message, intentional, relatable. It's really good. Like, I mean that. It's really, really good.
I was trying to do that because I know that, we are trying to, this is an organization of men. We don't want flutter and flourish. We're not reading a Jane Austen book. So I was trying to say things in a kind of, artistic way, but plainly. And so that was actually quite intentional.
That's awesome.
I like to write fiction, and I hate when someone will sit there and describe a field for 10 pages. It's like, dude, action drives story.
Right.
Like, you're going to lose everybody. So I was hoping that I could strike that balance, because we have to, especially when you're listing like what is required, you have to put the information out. You have to get a clear picture of what everyone is required to do or what is expected of them. But at the same time, you kind of want to make it sound, I tried to make it more authoritative, because before on yours, I know it was slapped together pretty quick, and you were trying to just explain to everybody, hey, this is new. But now that we've got a little bit of time under our belt, we've all done phase one, I think we can kind of say, hey, boom, this is
I
number
agree.
one.
It needed that for sure.
I was trying, so that there wasn't so much seesawing, that
exactly.
I didn't want it. And I noticed because it is your website, a lot of times you used whatever. I turned them all into
totally
we's.
did. Yep.
I turned them all into we's because I thought, you know what? This is
art. Absolutely. It is a we now. Yeah.
Yeah. Except for at the bottom where it was like communicating with you directly.
And that's something that's probably going to change quick also. As we get more guys in here, I won't literally be able to email all of them. So I know that's going to have to change soon too.
Well, I was hoping you'd like it. I was pretty nervous about it because like I said, I don't normally do this sort of stuff. I 100% strictly write fiction, and honestly, it's like ridiculous fiction. It's like horror fiction.
Oh, nice.
I like to write historical fiction.
Into that. Really?
I like to write, yeah.
That's my wife's favorite genre.
Yeah.
I
have a bunch of story ideas and books ideas for like set in, different history, because I was a European history minor and I love history. So I like to put as much real history into it with one fantastical element, like,
dang, that's
a
pretty
Wendigo
cool.
or a werewolf or something within a real setting. So I like to do that.
Dang, I could see myself being into that. We like that whole world, kind of dark mystery kind of.
So do I. You ever watch Mr. Ballin?
Get out of here. We watch him.
I've been watching Mr. Ballin for over a year. I love Mr. Ballin.
I could talk a lot of Mr. Ballin because there's a lot of stuff in there that we're like, that's real.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. We're like, oh man, we love it.
Anyway,
cool.
we better get to the live chat. Yeah. But I'm glad you like it.
Love it.
So,
there's more pages too. I need to send you because I now have a phase 1 page, a dedicated phase 1 page, and phase 2 page. So you can. I don't think they're live actually. So I'll send them to you tomorrow so you can take a look. But
okay. Yeah. I'm going back to work tomorrow. So the next like 3 or 4 days, I probably won't.
Oh yeah. No rush.
Too much done on it.
No,
but,
no worries.
On my weekend, I will. And I'm also a very slow reader. I've always been a very slow reader.
So am I.
And I'm super meticulous. So I'll go over the same thing like 15 times. So it takes me an eternity.
It drives my wife nuts because she reads really fast. And I learned that I learned to read by talking to myself, and she doesn't. She almost speed reads just naturally. Yeah. And it takes me forever. I do the same thing. I'll
subtitle movies. I'm like, pause it.
Yeah, me too. I know. That's pretty good. All right. Well, thanks for doing this. I'll see you in the chat.
All right. Bye.